those tapes and documents around to 4 editors and had been thrown out 4 times. The 5th time, at the Globe as a matter of fact, he accused the editor of being in your pay. A hassle started and the editor called the Honolulu police. Don't worry, sire, one of my boys got the tapes and stuff. Is it genuine? The evidence? Yes. The Federalists had the goods on you, all right. He grinned. As you said, everything but brainwashing. I'll take care of it, said the Emperor. Prince Jamie's been going through the family files, and I rather want him to see this batch of stuff, too. Meantime, get the Senesin boy out of that cell. I want to see him. He's got guts, if nothing else. He has sense, too, sire. He's just a little too young yet. He almost added, and romantic. But he stopped himself in time. How long will it take to get him out? His Majesty asked. I can have him here in half an hour. The editor of the Globe will drop the charges. I can put a little pressure on in the right places. The Emperor nodded. After a moment he thumbed a button on his chair arm. Inform Lord Senesin that he is requested to appear for a royal audience in 45 minutes, he said firmly. Yes, sire, said a voice from a hidden speaker. The Emperor looked at the colonel. Get the boy. John Senesin sat in a soft chair, his hands gripping at the arms as though it might at any time fall from under him. He looked at the 3 other men in the room. His father, Lord Senesin, looking rather tired but with a slight smile on his lantern-jawed face, sat on his son's left. One hand ran nervously through his gray hair. On John's right sat the colonel, looking cool, unperturbed, and very gentle. Between them sat the Emperor. John's face looked pale, and there was a slight nervous tic at the corner of his mouth. I don't understand, he said. He swallowed hard as his voice failed him. Nothing hard to understand, son, said the colonel mildly. We've been looking for evidence to break up the Federalists for several years. Some of them are honest men who are simply against any kind of hereditary monarchy. We'll let them go eventually. Some of them are fanatics, the kind that is against any form of government that happens to be in power. They'll get psychiatric treatment. But the leaders of the group are agents of the Gehan Federation. My men are picking them up now. The man that contacted you and me last night was arrested within 2 minutes after we left. But the evidence, those tapes, the documents, they all seemed genuine. They seemed so convincing. They should be convincing, John, said Lord Senesin in his smooth, oratorical baritone. You see, they are perfectly true. John Senesin looked at his father as though the older man had suddenly sprouted an extra set of ears. You've been brainwashed? The Prime Portfolio shook his head. No, son, not that. Did you see anything like that on the tapes? No, but the others, Fileman Brenner, Portfolio for Defense Vane, General Finster, all of them, I thought... You thought wrong, son, said Lord Senesin. I am and always have been working loyally with His Majesty. He gives the orders and I carry them out. John's voice became taut. You mean you're helping him? You're trying to get the Empire into a war with the Gehan Federation so that he can become another dictator, like Jarrus the First? He kept his eyes carefully averted from the Emperor as he spoke. Thus he didn't notice that His Majesty looked at Colonel Sorban with an expression that said, You're right, he does have guts. Lord Senesin said, No, son, I'm not working toward that at all. Neither is His Majesty. There would be no point in it. Then, for the first time, the Emperor spoke. His voice was soft but commanding. Mr. Senesin, let me explain something to you. John Senesin's head jerked around. There was a confused mixture of fear and determination on his face. Mr. Senesin, I no more want war than you do. I am trying to avoid it with every power at my command. I have that duty to my people. But I have another duty, too. A duty not just to the Empire, but to the human race as a whole. And that duty is to establish, not a Terran empire, but a galactic empire. A single, consolidated government for every planet in the galaxy. Man can't go on this way, divided, split up, warring with himself. Man can't live in isolation, cut off from other worlds, other types of societies. We can't have a part of the human race living in constant fear of another part. We can't allow the conditions that exist at this moment in the Gehan Federation. To paraphrase Lincoln, the galaxy cannot exist half slave and half free. Right now there is evidence that the Gehan Federation will collapse internally within less than 5 years. The only way for the President of the Federation to avert that collapse will be to declare war on the Empire. We have had to take certain risks in order to ensure that when and if war does come, we will win it. Bairnvell was one of those risks. Not too great a one, as it turns out. Evidently the Federation government doesn't see that our possession of that base is a vital factor in our own defense. Strategy in 3 dimensions isn't easy to reason out. Mr. Senesin, I have no desire for power in a personal way. Any power I have is used for the good of my people. I have no police system for terrorizing the people. I don't suppress the freedom of every man to say or print what he wants. To call your sovereign a fat-headed slob in a newsfac might be considered bad taste, but it isn't illegal. I can't even bring a civil suit against you, the way an ordinary citizen could. Now I'll grant that I sometimes use illegal means to control the Empire, but there are reasons for that. He was interrupted by a soft chime. He pressed a button on his armchair. Yes? You go on the interstellar hookup in 20 minutes, sire. The file has assembled, said a voice from a speaker. I'll be right there. He stood up and glanced apologetically at the other three men. Sorry, political announcement, you know. You two go ahead and explain to Mr. Senesin. Then he looked directly at the Prime Portfolio. I'll tell them you're slightly ill. He reached out, took Lord Senesin's hand, and grasped it firmly. I'll make it look good, old friend. Don't worry. I'll need your help with Lord Evondering when he gets the primacy. The other men were on their feet already. They watched in silence as he walked out the door, then eased themselves back into their chairs. I still don't understand, John said softly. The bitterness and anger seemed to have left him, leaving only puzzlement in their wake. If you take orders from him, Dad, then this isn't a democracy anymore. It's become another imperial dictatorship. Son, said his father, the Empire never has been a democracy in the sense you're thinking about. Ever since Jarrus I, it has been ruled solely by the Emperors. Always. The Imperial family is a special breed, son. It's a genetic strain in which the quality of wise leadership is dominant. It's a quality that's more than just intelligence. Wisdom is the ability to make correct judgments, not only for one's self, but for others. But Dad, there was almost a wail in the boy's voice, that makes the whole democratic system in the Empire a farce. It's totally unnecessary. You're unnecessary. He could run everything by himself. Lord Senesin started to say something, but Colonel Sorban interrupted. No, you young fool, he is not unnecessary. He is, in a very real sense, the Emperor's shield. Our emperors have always given the people of the Empire the kind of government they need, not the kind of government they want. There are certain things that must be done, whether the people like those things or not. How long do you think the Empire would last without the Imperial line to guide it? Not 10 years. The thing is too big, too vast for any ordinary man to handle the job. The voters are perfectly capable of electing a man to the primacy on the strength of his likable personality alone. Look at Lord Evondering. A hell of a pleasant guy, without a glimmering of real wisdom. When the people don't like the things the government does, they throw it out, even if the thing done was actually for the best. The people demand a new government. We can't allow them to throw the Emperor out, so we need a scapegoat. This time it happened to be your father here. He happened to be prime at a crucial time, and he had to give orders that made him unpopular, so he'll have to get out and let the loyal opposition take over, but the Emperor will go right on running things. Your father is far from unnecessary, son. He's a hero, damn it, and you'd better remember that. He's taking the rap for another man because he knows that he is expendable and the other man isn't. Oh, your father could probably ride this thing out and stay in the primacy for a couple more years, but this mess with the Federation is going to get a lot stickier than it is now. The Emperor is going to have to do things that the people will hate even worse, and we might as well let that fool Evondering take the rap. He'll look so bad by the time he leaves the primacy that everyone will be screaming for your father back again to clean up the mess. John Senesin still looked dazed. But if that's the case, why allow the people to vote at all? Because that's the only way you can keep an empire stable. As long as the average man feels he has a voice in his government, he's forced to admit that any failures are partly his own fault. Nobody rebels against a government he can vote against. As long as he has ballots, he won't use bullets. Lord Senesin said, I know it's a shock coming this way, but look at it right, son. I am, said John slowly. At least, I think I am, but it doesn't really seem right. Not yet. He looked at the colonel. One thing I don't understand, my lord. Why did you let me take all that evidence around to the newsies? And why are you telling me all this now? I'm still not fully convinced. Aren't you afraid I'll tell the whole story? But it was his father who answered. You tried that, son. It didn't work, did it? No, but why? Why wouldn't they believe me, even when I had all that evidence? Because they don't want to believe you, said the colonel. Ever hear of a father image? The Emperor is a symbol, John. He's not a human being in the eyes of the average man. He's the kind All-Father, the godlike being who dispenses mercy, but not justice. Haven't you ever noticed